She canceled in June, and now she's canceled me in July, so. Good man.
Yep, it's not hard.
Okay, no, it's on.
We're on, but I'm waiting for it to say.
There it is.
Crocus is live.
Yep, just did.
Share. Post. And share. Watch party.
Yeah.
All right, welcome to the Bible study. Heavenly Father, we thank you, Lord, for this day and the wonderful food that Chet brought in again. We ask special blessings on him, not today, but every day. We ask that you be with us as we study your word, Lord, and give us utterance of your will and your knowledge. And we just say all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Right, on chapter verse 7 tonight. Well, let's get into it because it explains. And it starts in verse 7. It says, And Joseph saw his brethren, and he knew them, but made himself strange unto them, and spake roughly unto them. And he said unto them, Whence come ye? And they said, From the land of Canaan to buy food. Now, Joseph saw his brethren. Now, it has been 20 years since he saw them. Wow.
He recognized them, but they didn't recognize him because, like you said, he was dressed as
an Egyptian.
Right.
Right. He would wear the clothes, the makeup, the political elite, right? And so, among those that came to buy corn, of course he would recognize them, right? He knew them, even though it had been more than 22 years at this point. Their appearance had changed. Their beards had grown when they sold him. Their habits and dress now being much the same as it was when he was younger, because they're still doing the same job, aren't they? They're still herding sheep. They're still shepherds, right? They just got older, and the age was, you could tell the age of a person in that time period from Canaan, well, especially of the tribes, because of their beards. They didn't cut them. And the older you got, the longer it got, and the grayer, whiter it gets, like mine, right? And so.
You don't change that much.
Yeah.
You just get older.
As you get older, right?
No, I don't mean you personally.
I know them. Anyway, right? So how, it says that he made himself strange unto them.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he would act as if, he took no notice of them as his relatives, right?
Right.
But he conveyed himself to them as he did to other foreigners, yet more strangely than normal. He would continue to be the governor. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
He would still have certain procedures and things that he would go through, and spoke roughly unto them.
So he just didn't roll out and go, "Oh, my brothers,
Right.
you recognize me, know who I am."
Mm-hmm.
But he also had to compose himself really quickly. So
Yes.
then it would have been more like probably
More stern, probably.
Exaggerated.
Other people probably would have looked at
They're
it
normal.
like, that's
Exaggerated.
not normal for you.
Right, what are you doing? Right?
Yeah.
His servants probably will go, right?
What's up with these fellas?
Right. So they were speaking roughly to him. He would use authority in his words. What country are you from? What is your business here? These would seem to be normal questions to the sons of Israel from a government of Egypt, right? They would expect these questions, right? Because they're coming in through. Now, you know the border of Egypt is being guarded. You know that, right? Correct? Because of the famine.
Yeah.
So there's certain gates and points that they would be able to come in, and it's close to where the food supplies are, but not near it, but close, right? So they could do screening, is what.
Yeah, and they're like centuries and stuff.
Right.
On the way. And
So if they came from somewhere because all those places had those silos that
All the different cities, yes.
Yes. So if they came from somewhere outside of Egypt, they had to go here.
No, not. Yeah. Just one
Well,
place.
they'd probably
Yeah,
want to
because
go
he
to the
said-
closest one.
No.
No.
Because he said earlier that Joseph would be in charge of it all.
Right.
Yeah.
So
So
they had to
But-
go to Joseph.
They had stored just what they needed for those cities in those cities,
yes,
right?
this was the extra.
Okay.
Mhm.
Oh, okay. So all the extra was in one place.
Because I was
Right.
wondering how Because honestly, they probably came through 3 or 4 cities or more even to get there.
Smelling bread, baking,
Yeah,
and everything
right.
the whole time.
They would have been treated as foreigners.
Mhm.
They wouldn't have been welcome in the Egyptian homes. They wouldn't have stopped. The reason, remember when they left last time and they stopped at the inn in the evening and they found the money in the sacks? Remember that from last time?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That means they had traveled outside the area of Egypt.
Is this the second time they've come? I
Yeah.
missed that last week.
No, it's not the second time, but you'll see here as we go along, okay? But I'm just kind of giving you a preview, okay? Anyway, and he said unto them, whence come ye? Now he's asking who you are, what country you're from, what is your business here? And these would seem to be normal questions, right? To the sons of Israel from the governor of Egypt, right? Now I put here, for Joseph to have these questions asked was not normal. His assistants would have normally recorded this information and sold them grain to them and told them to leave.
Yep.
So he intervened.
He addressed them when it wasn't even
Appropriate,
right.
right? So it should have been a clue right there,
Mm-hmm.
right? All right. And their response there was, and they said from the land of Canaan to buy food. All right. First, for which they could not get in Canaan was the food, right?
Yep.
The famine being so great. And the second is to see if they would be truthful about their purpose. All Joseph remembers of them is hatred and disdain.
Mm-hmm.
He
He
didn't
misses-
know if they were coming looking for him, if they had found
Right,
out that he was
right.
alive or anything like that.
Exactly.
He wanted to find out, why are you here?
Yeah, he's figuring and he's going to be not speaking to them directly. He's going to be going through an interpreter.
Right.
He's going to be speaking Egyptian.
Which would be another reason why they would have
They
no
wouldn't
clue.
recognize him, yeah.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. He speaks fluent Egyptian.
And his last memories are
Not good,
getting
right?
thrown in a thing.
Being stripped of his clothes.
Tell him the dream.
And
Getting
sold.
stripped of his really cool coat that his dad
Right.
gave him. Getting thrown in a hole and getting sold.
Yep, that's the last of his
And that's
memories.
probably all he remembers as a child.
From 17, he was 17, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the hardships he's gone through since then, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so verse 8 says, and Joseph knew his brethren, but they knew not him, right? Of course he
was
recognized.
just a kid.
He was a kid,
Yes.
yeah, right? And so,
But right, he would have remembered it.
yeah, he
Oh,
would have,
That would have been etched in his memory.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Could- You know, he's in a prison.
It's a trauma.
You think it's not etched in there permanently, right?
Mm-hmm.
But one thing he took with him was his faith,
Mm-hmm.
right? And God said, "Okay, I got you. We take care of this, right?"
And his brothers aren't going to know the difference because they didn't care.
Well, they don't even think he's
two
alive,
bits. Right.
and they didn't care, right? Well, one brother did. Reuben was pretty upset about it. But
Yeah.
anyway, all right. And verse 9 says, and Joseph remembered the dreams which he dreamed of them, and then said to them, ye are spies, to see the nakedness of the land ye are come. Now, the reason he says here, he remembered the dreams, they're bowing and prostrating themselves before him, brought to him his remembrance, his dreams of the sheaves making obedience to him,
Mm-hmm.
and the sun, moon, and 11 stars doing the same to him, and that's in Genesis 37:7. Yeah, that just flashed right in front of him, didn't it? Okay. Now I put down here a little note. Did you catch the specific correlation with the sheaves or stalks bundled together of the corn, grain,
Mm-hmm.
is exactly what they are requesting from him.
Wow.
It's amazing how specific God was in that dream, right? And how it would come to fruition. Grain, fruit. We got a long day. All right. And he said to them, ye are spies. He's not believing they are,
Right.
right? Nor absolutely accusing or asserting that they were such. This he said to try them and what they would say for themselves in order to lead on to further discourse with them. Are they going to try to defend themselves? Heck yeah, right? Put a note, it says, he dwelt with them as a judge on the bench when examining persons whose charges have the nature of an interrogation. Ye are spies, are ye not, right?
Mm-hmm.
Surely you must be, unless you give a better account of yourself, I must think you are, is what he's saying, right? Yeah. He's the governor.
Plus, he may be thinking too that why are they here for food? Because my dad was completely blessed by God. I said, God blessed me. So what? They shouldn't need food.
He doesn't know the story yet, does
He doesn't know the famine is so vast.
Well, he doesn't know how far it's spread.
Right.
Right. He knows it's in the close countries.
Right.
Right.
Because those people are coming in, but Canaan is
Well,
quite a
it's
little bit
off.
of ways away. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're by fresh water and
Right.
everything.
It had already been affected. Right. So he's getting a better picture of things going on. Okay. Now the pretext of this sudden accusation lies in the constant exposure of the Egyptians on their eastern border to raids and attacks from the nomad hordes of the Asiatics. Joseph's words are therefore quite natural, right? Thus, others had formed ideas or plans of coming upon them and taking away their corn by force, right? That's the reason why foreigners that came to buy corn were brought before Joseph and examined by him. This is not his first rodeo. Now, but God has probably given him the ability to understand their hearts and their intents.
Because it's been working thus far.
Thus far, right? God was with him in discernment. God is with Joseph always because of his faithfulness and God's plan. So verse 10 says, and they said unto him, Nay, my Lord, but to buy food are thy servants came. Wow. I love that verse. They call him my Lord, and we are servants. Yeah. To the one they sold.
Until he lets the cat out of the bag.
Yeah, it's
What,
down
do
the
you think
road.
we're going to serve you and bow down to you?
All right.
Here they are.
Too late, they already did it.
Okay, so they say, Nay, my Lord, right? One in the name of the rest of, or each of his turn, denying that they were spies. Whether one of them represented the group or they all said it, doesn't matter, right? Thus addressing him with the reverence and submission, calling him their Lord. This further supports his dream in his youth. Well, they paid obedience. They bow down to him, right? But to buy food or the servants come. They had no other purpose except what they came to Egypt for, to buy corn so they would not perish. That tells Joseph the severity of it, right away. Okay, 11 says,
He knows his brothers. They'll come in and attack an entire
city.
wipe them out.
Yeah.
He knows his brothers.
He knows Reuben and Simeon and Judah and all of them. You know, they're seasoned people, right? Verse 11 says, "We are all one man's sons. We are true men. Thy servants are no spies." Now, it can hardly be thought that a single family should engage in such an affair, or that one man would send his sons as spies, and especially all of them. It being a that's why they said that they're the sons of one man, right? Even spies aren't that stupid, right? They're not going to send their whole horde. They're going to send one or two to see what's going on. Not everybody. But when they say we are true men, that spoke truth when they said they come to buy corn. They are honest, upright, and sincere in what they said. They're not telling a lie.
That's what you're saying. We're telling the truth.
Yes, we are true men. We're telling the truth, right? And thy servants are no spies. This they expressed in the strongest terms with the fullest assurance they could, detesting the charge and the character of being spies, right? So they've got a little bit of a argument going on here, huh? They're defending themselves, their brother. They don't even realize it. He knows their character. He knows which ones he can trust, okay, and the ones he can't. Note they call themselves his servant again, with it's affirmation of the dreams, right? So verse 5, or page 5 starts out with verse 12. And he said to them, Nay, but to see the nakedness of the land ye are come, right? And he said, Nay, what he's saying is what? This argument will not do. I'm not to be put off with such words as these. Joseph is saying, if you can produce no better proof of you being an honest man than this, and give no better account of yourselves, you are saying that I must abide by it? Nay, no, I'm not going to go by that. He's really putting a test to him, isn't he? might be having a little fun. Or, I don't think so.
He's trying to find out their nature.
Yes.
He knew what their nature was
Then.
when he left.
Right,
So he's
Had-
trying to figure out what it is now.
right. He's trying
And
to
they were
judge
not
them.
honorable then,
No, they weren't. No.
over cities,
Mhm.
and
Right.
so,
He doesn't have very good memories of them, does he? They fought with him. They wouldn't talk to him. They called him.
any good memories he had went down the hole that they threw him in.
Yep. Yeah. So he says to see the nakedness of the land year come. This he urged in order to get a reaction and further information from them of their family and the state of it, which he was anxious to know. Now, that see the nakedness of the land is to find its weakness. Where's the weakness spots? Where's the grain being held? How many people are there? That was what spies would do, right?
How many people are defending it?
Yes, that type of information, right? Right, and 13 says, and they said, thy servants are 12 brethren, the sons of one man in the land of Canaan, and behold, the youngest is this day with our father, and one is not. That's truthful, right?
He was the one that was not.
Mm-hmm. Right, and when they say that they are the servants are 12 brethren, or rather were 12, since one afterward is said not to be, but they're all related. Okay. Now the sons of one man in the land of Canaan, of course they are of Jacob, who dwelt there. This is said with the same view as before to show the improbability of there being spies. They're still trying to defend themselves, right? And they said, behold, the youngest is with this day with our father, meaning Benjamin, of whom Joseph was eager to hear of. It's his only brother that's from his mother that's passed, right? With the same father, right? And no doubt now he was glad to hear he was alive, and his father also. He's found out that too, right? And that they were both together in the land of Canaan. So they're okay. They're there, right? They're telling him a lot of information he didn't have for 20-some years, right? Now, and the one is not in the land of the living, is dead, or so they thought Joseph was. Who is the person intended as appears from what both Reuben and Judah afterwards say in Genesis 42:22. And when we get there, I'll bring that back up, okay? Yeah, here he was before them, and was the person they were speaking to. This must have been very difficult to hear, who knew full well they meant himself. They'd heard about that. They just already wrote him off as being dead.
They sent him away for that to happen.
To be a
so-
slave.
Well,
They sold him into slavery.
They didn't all know that he had been sold to slavery.
No.
No, they thought that he was dead because
But-
they had sent somebody
Well, some of
after him, didn't they?
Well, the oldest brother, Reuben, was it
Reuben came
Reuben
back.
is
Came
and
back
was
to find
pissed.
him.
and thought he was dead.
Yeah.
Right, it was just, what was it, 3 or 4 brothers?
Three or
that
four.
sold him.
4.
Because Reuben went away in
Right.
the wilderness to do something and then came back.
Right, and he's going back to that well
Right.
in the
Yes.
evening to get him out, to send him home.
So, yeah, so when the 5 went back home,
Mm-hmm. They made
because what they slaughtered something and put its blood on his
on the
jacket.
coat. Right.
And they didn't even have to say anything.
But they
and
sent the
Jacob
servant
was
with it.
like, oh,
They
my
sent
sons did.
the servants.
They sent
with
the
the
servants
jacket.
with it.
That's right, so they never really lied.
They didn't have the blood on their hands,
Right.
did they?
So half of them think he's dead, and the other half aren't telling them the truth.
Anything.
That's right.
There's only
like
one that
4.
knows that he was sold.
No, 4.
Yeah.
There's 3 or 4 of them that knew.
They were sitting at a meal. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So there were let's just make it even. There were 6 that
Right.
were out messing with sheep.
Right.
Reuben went somewhere else. When the caravan came
Right.
and they took him out of the hole
And sold him.
Then when he came back,
The hole's empty.
the hole's empty.
And they've got this coat that's
covered in
blood.
From their sacrifice or whatever.
The goat, yeah.
The servants that were also with them, because remember they don't count servants because
Right.
they're So they went back to Jacob.
And showed him, is this,
And showed him,
asked him,
and then-
is this Jacob's coat?
Yeah, is this Jacob's coat? And then immediately he goes, or is this not
Joseph's.
Jacob? Is this Joseph's
Joseph's
coat?
coat, right.
And he goes, "Oh, my son, my poor son's been
Right.
killed." So they didn't even have to really lie to him. They just had to hide the truth.
Because, and Jacob is the one that had sent him to go to them.
Yes,
So he's feeling guilty.
guilty.
And Reuben's the one that said, let's not kill him, let's put him in the hole.
Yeah,
Right.
yes, because they were going to kill him.
Right.
So let's just throw him in the hole, and then he went and did something else.
Well, he had to go back to his flock because
Right.
he was moving.
Yeah,
up
because
for
they were
feeding.
right. Because there was probably six flock.
Right.
So, 5 out of the 6 people, 5 of them knew he was sold.
Right.
So,
And the rest of them believed he's dead, and they went along with
so half of these guys,
it. Yeah.
5 of these guys that went
Right.
knew
That he was sold
that
into
he was
slavery.
sold into slavery.
And they figured that him being a youth, he's probably worked to death already. It's been 22 years. And they're thinking that since Joseph, with his dreams and his arrogance, probably got beat to death.
Well, they probably thought that, well, they might have an inkling of a doubt,
Mm-hmm.
but tended or lied so long
Mhm.
They
that it
believe it.
becomes real.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Hmm. That lie becomes your truth.
Yeah, but it comes back to bite them.
Mhm.
Okay, so Joseph says here in verse 14 says, "And Joseph said unto them, That is it that I spake unto you, saying, Ye are spies." Right? Okay, that is it that I spake, or just as I have spoken or claimed you to be. Joseph seems to say that they're claimed to be all the sons of one man is improbable and suspicious. If these suspicions are to be removed, their statement must be verified.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so 15, it says, "Hereby ye shall be proved by the life of Pharaoh, ye shall not go forth hence, except your youngest brother come hither." Now, when he says, "Hereby ye shall be proved," whether you are spies or not, by producing their youngest brother, is and said to be at home with his father, right? What are they going to do? Right?
They're gonna go get your brother.
Right. By the life of Pharaoh, you shall not go forth hence, except for the youngest brother come hither. Now, by the life of Pharaoh seems to be the form of an oath, as it was in common with many nations, right? There's a strong asseveration, as so surely they should not leave from the place where they were, unless their youngest brother Benjamin was brought to him. So, wow.
How are you gonna go get them if they're all stuck there?
Uh-huh. He puts it to them here in just a second, right? It is recorded with the Scythians, who used to swear by the royal throne, the Romans in later times by the life, the health, and the genius of the emperor of Rome, right? Which was Caesar, or
Whatever. Man.
right?
I swear it on the Bible.
Yeah, the custom with the Egyptians. Even today, we take an oath in court to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help us God, with our hand on the Bible.
Mhm.
We take an oath. That's what he was doing when he said, "By the life of Pharaoh, you shall not leave." Right? And who's the most powerful person in Egypt? Pharaoh. And Joseph had his authority. Yeah, you're not leaving. I can have you all killed. At that level. Yeah. So, we go to 16, and it says, "Send one of you, and let him fetch your brother. And ye shall be kept in prison, that your words may be proved, whether there be any truth in you, or else by the life of Pharaoh, surely ye are spies." So that's a death sentence. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now he says, "Send one of you, let him fetch your brother," right? He proposes that one of them, like you asked, Jeff, right?
Mhm.
That one of them might be sent to them to their father's house and bring Benjamin. And ye shall be kept in prison. The rest of them, until he came back with Benjamin, are going to be held in prison.
Mm-hmm.
He's thinking, I had to live there. You guys can live there.
Yep.
Feel how
A little taste of what I
I
had.
had to go through, right? That your words be proved, whether you be any truth in you. By this action, it would seem whether they were men of truth and honesty or not. And should their brother be brought, it would appear that they to be good men and true. Now, see, that's very logical. And as governor, who's going to go against Joseph making that decree? No one,
Nobody.
except the Pharaoh, and he's the only one who can override it. Okay? All right. Should not their brother they spoke of be produced, that's the last part of this,
Mm.
then it would be plain and simple case that they were not the honest men they pretended to be, and they did not come merely to buy corn, but had an ill intention as spies and sentenced to put to death.
Yep.
The Egyptians did not mess with spies. It was, you're done, right? So.
Yeah, plus at this time they weren't a world power. They're powerful, but they weren't like, they didn't have armies like they did later.
No, later they gained
Right.
more power, right? So I love this verse here. In verse 17, he says, "And he put them all together into ward 3 days."
Mm-hmm.
Now, we need to kind of break that down a little bit. And so in the ward 3 days, in order to consult together, he put them together and agree to who should be sent to fetch their brother. They had to decide, which seems probably that at least maybe one of them they could agree, like, you go, right? But not one of them caring to be the bringer of such news and demand to their father. Can you imagine going back now? All the brothers in jail, I gotta take Benjamin. I'm not going back and tell Dad that. So they're arguing with themselves,
Mm-hmm.
right? Now, I put a note there, it says he put them into ward. It is a very specific placement. Not the dungeon or the hole in the ground, but a ward would be under supervision and under guard. If you remember when we first started discussing this, when he was in the ward of his master Potiphar, that was attached to Potiphar's house. The regular prison was in the streets, dug into the ground, covered with beams, right? Where people walked by all day and the dust would fall on you and they would spit on you because you were a prisoner. You were nothing. You know? He didn't put them there. He placed them exactly where he'd been placed. You think Potiphar's not going to go along with it?
Right.
Where would they have the best care?
And the ward.
And the ward.
And
the
that's
guard.
where the thing that this term comes from, the ward of the state.
The ward of the state. Thank you. That's exactly where it comes from. Right. Or the warden.
Yep.
Prison warden. Right?
So they're living in the warden's house, essentially.
Essentially. Yeah. They don't even know they got it good. Yet.
Well, but to them, you gotta realize
They've been held now.
these kids are all grew up as like royalty type people. Yes, they had to go do flocks and everything, but they've never been deprived
Of
of
anything.
They
Yep.
grew up rich, and now their freedoms. Yes, they're going to be treated well, but they're not going to get to cut their hair or groom or probably take
They don't have
baths.
special. No.
They're going to eat well, but all of their freedoms are being taken.
They're free. Yeah.
They're in processing.
Yes, they are.
Exactly.
That's a good way to put
It's
it.
intake.
They're
It's
getting ready to
intake.
get their fingerprints taken.
Talking, right? Yeah. So we see a different.
Mm-hmm.
Joseph is taking them through steps that he went through,
Yes, he did.
and that's a pretty amazing. It's a great way to have them later understand.
It's a good lesson to,
Yes.
to all of us.
It'll
too.
humble them on it.
That
Yeah.
revenge doesn't have to be tenfold harsher than what
No.
you went through.
No.
Just having them walk through
A
in your
taste.
shoes,
A taste.
right, is enough.
Mm-hmm. I think he has great wisdom, and God granted that to him.
And he only said 3 days.
3
You could have
days.
kept him in there for like 7 or something.
Oh, he could have kept him there for as long as he wanted.
But I think in the back of his mind, if they're here begging for food,
What is it?
my family is starving.
Father, my brother,
Mhm.
is our families.
His mom,
Okay.
his
Well,
dad,
his
Right.
mom.
well, whatever.
Whatever mothers are living.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because one would have took over.
Right. Oh, yeah. Verse 18, it says, "And Joseph said unto them the third day, This do and live, for I fear God." Okay? Now, when he said said unto them the third day, he put on such an appearance, asking them who they had chose, and finding they could not come to an agreement among themselves who would go on the errand, he recedes from his former order and to give them another option. I like how he has some great leadership qualities. Anyway, this do and live. The meaning of what he was about to say to them, which if they punctually observed and performed, it would be the means of saving their lives. Right? And he said, now the thing they didn't catch here is he says, "For I fear God."
Mhm.
I can't believe they missed that.
Well, the Egyptian interpreters would have been saying it.
Oh, which means I fear Pharaoh. Right.
But see, they didn't understand Egyptian.
Who's your God?
Right.
He not the God.
Yeah, to them, they could have been the whatever that cat was that they worshipped.
The
Yeah.
ball or the cat, yeah.
They had an overarching God, but I don't remember
Yeah.
what they call him right now because I'm tired. It's
Yeah, a Ra, wasn't it?
Ra was the
Ra
sun god.
was the
wasn't
sun
he?
god,
Sun
but he
god.
was the ruler of the other gods.
And then
because-
ISIS,
Right, and then the ISIS and
they had,
right,
anyway.
because the sun was the all powerful.
Ra powerful, right.
Right.
But that makes sense now because if I understand now that they would not have correlated that with their God.
No, but he's meaning that,
They heard lowercase g.
right, and he's speaking upper G,
Yes.
right? If you catch it,
Mhm.
right? He's saying they would not do either an unjust or cruel thing. This might have given them an idea who he was, yet there being among the Gentiles in all nations some few that feared God, and they took no further notice of it. Because small g, large g, right?
Mhm.
And heard only that they might expect just and equitable dealings by him. Since he was in such a high position in Egypt, he knew there was one higher than God to whom he was accountable.
Okay. Whether it be his God or their God.
Exactly, right. So verse 19 is the catcher here.
So he was swearing, making a promise.
Making a promise to God, wasn't he?
He was making a promise to his brother.
To his brothers, to
Yeah.
God. And you know, if they just didn't put it together. He gave them all kinds of clues, right? People can hear all kinds of information until you actually see it, or if it's laid out in front of you, then it goes, "Oh, duh! Did I miss this?"
Or something that triggers it, and it's like, oh, wait,
Right.
and you go back and start thinking about it.
Right.
It's like,
There, yeah. You go, go back, right? Okay, so it says here, 19 says, "If you be true men, let one of your brethren be bound in the house of your prison." I like that. How? That's a clue, right?
Mhm.
"Go ye, carry corn for the famine of your houses." All right. Let one, right? Or be bound. "Agree among yourselves which of you, for one of you must remain in prison,
Mhm.
where you were, and the rest being set at liberty to go," right? Now he uses the words here, "bound in the house of your prison." It tells us that Joseph has restrained them in prison with care. Right? Probably the same place he had been for so many years, at the ward and guard of Potiphar's prison connected to the house.
But bound means they were tied up.
no, it
No.
just means that they're not
They-
allowed out.
They can't get out.
Okay.
They're
So,
within boundaries, a limit area. They're in a confined area.
Okay.
okay.
They wouldn't be able to go in and
Because
out.
I'm wondering if they didn't eat for 3 days.
Oh, I'm sure
And that's
they
why
ate
it
if
was
they
3
were in the
days.
house.
They would probably get prison food,
Okay.
which is the scraps from the master's table.
But the number 3 is in the Bible a lot.
Yeah. It is, isn't it? Right? All right. It said, "Go ye, carry corn for the family of your houses." Joseph, though he dwelt with them after this manner to get what knowledge he could out of his family, and to get a chance to see his brother, yet he was concerned for the good of them and theirs, and that they should be in extreme want through the famine, like you said, right? Also that they might have a speedy supply of corn, and was not willing to detain them any longer. He was already concerned about them back there. I'm already over you guys. I got to take care of my brother and your families and your wives and
Yeah,
your
my
kids.
little brother and everything.
Everything back there. Everything he remembered back there. Right? All right. Okay. Verse 20 says, "But bring your youngest brother unto me, so shall your words be verified, and ye shall not die." And they did so. Okay? All right, bring your youngest brother. "Prove to me upon their return for more corn." It tells us it was early in the famine cycle. It's like probably been a year, or maybe they figure about 2 years. It's a 7-year cycle. Okay? How many people know that? Only the
Same with
Pharaoh and Joseph.
So he knew that even if they'd stayed away with their one brother in prison, that they would eventually have to come back, period.
Yep. And they'd have to bring Benjamin. And it's your
Or they
problem.
would
You
all
got to
be
deal
put
with
to
your
death.
dad.
Yes,
You got to deal with my father. Ooh. Okay. And then he says, so your words shall be verified, that they were true men and had no ill design upon the land where they came to buy corn. And ye shall not die, as spies is what he's saying. Which they were otherwise threatened with, as it was customary in all nations to put such to death when found out.
It's treason.
It's treason, yeah, right? So, 21 says, and they said one to another, we are verily guilty concerning our brother, in that we saw the anguish of his soul when he besought us, and we would not hear, therefore it's this distress come upon us. He's brought them back home, didn't he?
So now they're talking
Amongst themselves.
about when he was saying, please let me go, please let me go.
Remember, he pleaded with them.
Oh, yeah, and they were like, yeah, whatever.
He begged with them, right? And they said one to another, before they went out of the prison, or at least while they were in the presence of Joseph, right? The guilty of concerning our brother, meaning Joseph, whom they had sold for a slave, who they supposed was dead through grief and hard servitude. Now, they're not telling the other ones, but that's what they're thinking, right?
Yeah, we're being punished for what we did.
Yeah.
That's what they're saying.
Yep.
Being punished for what we did.
The reckoning has finally come.
Yes.
God's will now is taking place many years later.
Now being in trouble themselves, it brings to mind the sin that they had been guilty of.
Do we think that they...
No, not yet.
I'm sorry.
No, they're only going about
For what we did
right.
to Joseph.
So 22 years ago was still fresh in their memories and laid heavily on their conscience. Because the length of time neither makes sin less nor the conscience lighter.
No,
When it's
actually, probably
reviewed.
just way more.
And in that we saw the anguish of his soul when he besought us, and we would not hear. He most earnestly and importunately, I can't say that word. Can you say that word? No.
Hold on. I don't have my glasses on.
That one.
Nope.
Anyway,
Where?
inopportunity,
Importunately
importunately, requested of them that they would not put him into the pit and leave him there. Right?
He pleaded with
In the
them.
same manner, entreated them they would
Yeah.
not put him into the hands of strangers.
Right.
Right? But restore him alive to his father. They turned a deaf ear to all his cries and requests and hardened themselves against him.
Yep.
Right? Therefore, this distresses upon us. They are saying that the same measure of fear and emotional pain that was measured by them to him was now measured to them in the same manner, and deaf ears to their pleas.
So they're basically having a whole conversation about that night.
Yes, about that. And he's listening.
But they don't think he can understand because
Nope.
he's been speaking Egyptian this whole time.
Hasn't spoken a word of Hebrew to him, has he? And he speaks it fluently.
So I read ahead.
Okay.
So, but Reuben didn't know they sold him. So now Reuben finds out.
Yeah, here we go.
He has got tied.
Okay. There it goes, right? 22. And it says, and Reuben answered them, saying, spake I not unto you, saying, do not sin against the child? And ye would not hear. Therefore, behold, also his blood is required. Ooh. Okay. Being the eldest who had been most concerned for the lives of Joseph, and most concerned at the time in the care of him, right? It seems that Reuben endeavored to dissuade his brothers from selling Joseph when they first proposed it, to which they would not listen. They had hearkened to him as not to kill him directly when they first consulted. They agreed with him to cast him into a pit, which he did not intend he should stay, at least until he had opportunity of taking him out and returning him to his father. So they went behind Reuben's back too. right? Therefore, behold, also his blood is required to take from, Jonathan adds, of us. They were accessory to his death and guilty of it. That Reuben believed he was most likely dead and now must suffer for it. He's believed that all along, right? As a just retaliation when being threatened with death unless they could clear themselves.
So is he also saying that we're saying that he's dead, but we don't know for sure? So
Well,
somehow we're going to have to prove he's dead? When it says also his blood is required? Meaning Joseph's blood?
Well, okay, go back to...
Not literally the blood, but...
Well, think about this. When Cain killed Abel in the garden, what cried out from the ground?
Abel's blood.
Abel's blood, right? They're saying now we have to pay the price.
Okay.
Because the blood cries out.
Right.
Our blood has to be shed to balance.
Okay. I get it.
Because blood's the only thing that can clear your sin, right?
Yeah.
That's a blood sacrifice. His father would have. There's a loss of him.
Right.
That would have been part of the mourning process, the weeping and okay. But these guys hadn't asked for forgiveness, had they?
Well, no, their guilt won't let them.
Ah, they couldn't do that in front.
Their guilt won't let them.
Exactly.
If they ask for forgiveness, they have to admit that they did something wrong.
Exactly.
And they don't think they've done anything wrong. Well,
Well,
they know
they
they've done
know.
wrong, but they didn't care.
Right. Reuben just now found out that he wasn't killed by an animal.
Mm-hmm.
That he was sold as a slave. So
Right.
here's where my question, go back to my question. They don't know he's dead. But yet they just told this Egyptian lord over all the food of the land that he was dead.
Yes, they did.
So it almost seems like he's saying, now we're going to have to prove he's dead. We're going to have to come back with Benjamin. And we're going to have to prove that the 12th brother is dead. Otherwise, he's going to kill us all.
Can he hold him to that?
No, because they can't. Well, because it was blood, so they.
Between 7 to 10 years younger than Joseph.
So he would have been
About
like
7.
5 or 7 years old.
5
Something
to
like
7,
that.
somewhere along there. Would he know what happened? Would he be able to say, oh yeah, they came back and they told Dad
Yeah, the
he'd been
servant
killed,
that my dad assumed.
right? So that would verify Benjamin's being the youngest.
And not being there in the field.
Yep. Supposedly.
Right. Okay.
Okay, you see how it works?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this thing gets
A
really...
lot in one verse.
One verse. There's a lot there, right? Okay. 23 says, and they knew not that Joseph understood them, for he spake unto them by an interpreter. And go to the next page, right? And they knew not that Joseph understood them. What is above related, they spoke in presence and hearing, speaking to one another in the Hebrew language, and he being an Egyptian, as they took him to be. They did not imagine that he could understand them, and therefore were not worried at all in what they said.
Just like
So-
certain people at work.
Right, so he spoke to them by an interpreter, which he chose to do so that they might have no suspicion of him or who he was. It also shows that there were some similarities between the Hebrew language and the Egyptian in many things, yet in some they were different. Okay? The difference was such that there was need of an interpreter where the parties did not understand both languages.
Yeah, there's certain people that talk a certain way at work, but Derek speaks fluently in that.
Yeah.
So they talk about, oh, we'll take this much rope. And
Right.
I'm going to get some of these to take home.
Okay. All right, so verse 24, yes,
So
huh?
the really cool thing is that because he was listening, he now knows that Reuben had no intention of,
Yes.
and
does.
wanted to take him home to his father.
Yes.
He's finding out who was really involved in him going where he went.
Because he was in a pit over there.
And that was everybody but Reuben and Benjamin.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's coming, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. Okay, so 24 says, and he turned himself about from them and wept and returned to them again and communed with them and took from them Simeon and bound him before their eyes.
So now this is really binding.
Yes.
Okay.
You know why?
Because
Simeon's the one that took him out of the pit and bound him up for the...
Slave, to be a slave.
So he just chose for them then.
Mm-hmm. Who hated him the most?
You guys can't make up your minds, so here.
And Simeon is the one that what?
I'm going to take the one that bound me.
That attacked Shechem with a sword, him and
Right.
Reuben.
He's the hothead.
He's the hothead. Take out the
He
fire.
needs some time in prison.
But also, why? He won't stir them up when they go back. They're going to be afraid.
Mm-hmm.
Joseph,
Because he'll talk him into war on the way back to
yes,
to
he
Canaan.
would. Yeah. We'll get all our servants together and we'll just go against them and we'll get our brother out. And, yeah.
We'll take all the corn while we're at it.
Yeah. Eh? You see what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
Joseph knew who the hothead was.
Yep.
Okay. So, he turned himself and wept. Here's his brother and confessed their sin and guilt to one another in selling him. Reuben's affectionate concern for him. Naturally of a tender spirit, that he could no longer act the part he had. He had to get out of their sight, right? To keep up the sternness and severity of his continence and position. Therefore, he turned his face away from them, that they might not discover or see it. His back to them, or went into another room, and after he had given vent to his passion, composed himself. It broke his heart, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when he returned and began to commune with them, he talked with them on the same subject of going with bringing their youngest brother with them upon their return,
Mm-hmm.
also offering for their encouragement free traffic of travel in the land of Egypt, right? He does this later. It comes in, okay? But when he said, and bound him, that's what I like. And he took them Simeon, who perhaps was the most cruel and hard-hearted among them. Simeon's history from the affair of Shechem, that he was a man of a fierce and bloody disposition. Joseph might have chosen to detain him as being not so much in his father's affection because of the affair of Shechem, right? So it would be less painful to Jacob than if it was another one of the sons of Jacob.
Mm-hmm.
Jacob was already fed up, mad, and has been mad for 20 years
Mm-hmm.
about him, right? And he bound him. Okay, now Joseph may also have feared that Simeon, being a perverse and boisterous disposition, would vehemently oppose the Simeon and Benjamin into Egypt, which Joseph was very desirous of seeing his little brother, right? So he bound him before their eyes, in their presence, to terrify them, to let them know that they must expect if they did not obey his orders. Really more to humble them for their sin they had been guilty of, and was now upon their minds. I love some of the stuff these guys do. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're on 25, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Then it says, Joseph commanded to fill their sacks with corn, and to restore every man's money into his sack, and give them provision for their way. And thus did he unto them. Right now, Joseph commanded to fill, which was what they had came for. He supplied them, right? And he restored the money to their sacks. The money paid by each of his quantity of corn delivered to him, not into the person's hands, but he put it into each person's sack privately and unknown to them.
Yes.
Okay? To give them provision for their way. Not only did he give them the corn, he went beyond.
He gave them food for the journey back.
For the journey, right? For the animals,
Probably
too.
water.
Everything.
Stuff for the animals.
Everything, right?
And then
Sufficient for both of themselves and their
stash
beast
the
of
money.
burden. Yeah.
Stash the money in there.
Mm-hmm. And carry the whole of what corn they brought to their families. He did not want them taking corn out of the sacks, right? Or the
Well, and
the
he
thing-
didn't want Simeon to find out that he was helping them,
Exactly.
because then he would figure it out.
Right.
Maybe.
Well, yeah, but Simeon's already mad because he's bound now.
Right. His walls are up. He ain't paying attention.
Yeah. And thus did he unto them. That is not Joseph, but his steward or deputy or whoever the servant was that he gave the order to. Right? And these servants and people that work for him, in his most second most powerful person in Egypt, I'm going to do exactly what he says because I don't want the consequences of failing him, right? So 26 says, and they said, and they laded their asses with corn and depart thence. Everybody understands that. They got their stuff together and left, right? 27 says, and as one of them opened his sack to give his ass provender, that's the word.
Yeah.
In the end,
Provisions.
he espied his money, for behold, it was in his sack's mouth. Uh-oh. Now you go to open it, because they would carry a smaller sack to feed the animal with on the trip. Not just the big grain sacks that would be the burden, right? Because they would keep a smaller sack so they could feed them on, at the end of every day, right? That's where the money was stuck. Uh-oh.
At least that's where his money was.
Well, no, yeah. Listen to this, right?
Because the other ones didn't find it in their little sack.
Right. When he gave the provender,
Yep.
which probably occurred the first night of the journey, a good man regards the life of his beasts and takes care of them as well as himself when on a long journey. Right. He espied the money which he paid for the corn in the original sack. So here's the key: it's not loose coins. They would have given them the little leather pouches with the coins in them, right? And it would have been weighed.
Oh, that's right.
Okay, not counted out. It had been weighed. It's like gold or silver. It would have been weighed.
Back then, didn't they turn around and chop the coin into pieces,
Yes.
depending on what they had to pay for?
Yes.
Yeah.
They would cut them in pieces. Yeah. That's why it's hard to find the coins and whole coins. Anyway, this
Even
some
pieces.
yeah. Reese's Pieces. Is that what you
Yeah.
said? Okay. All right. All right. So the money was in the original sack. It was placed so it would just as he opened it, he would see it. Right. So 28 says, and he said unto his brother. They didn't even think back at anything else, right? Because their guilt was still with them, wasn't it? They already think they've been in prison because God is making them pay for
Because
it.
you think most people would have been, oh, I wonder if my money's in here.
Now, first thing they did was like, oh no, right? So, the money paid for the corn is returned, and here. Can you imagine the look on their faces? Oh, right. The first part of this verse puts them all upon opening their sacks, where every man found his money, though not expressed here. You think they would all gone, oh no, now we're going to thieve.
That's exactly what I was.
We're not spies anymore, but now we're
But
thieves.
now we're set up as spies or thieves. No matter what, we're hosed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right? And Simeon's going to die for it, because we can't go back and get him now.
But then everybody's going to die because they can't go back there and get more food.
Yeah. and their heart failed them.
No second helping for them.
No, through surprise and fear of what they saw, and they were afraid.
Mhm.
It's pretty amazing. Like, okay, are we over time or are we good?
We're almost.
We're
I guess
at 37.
I guess we're not almost done.
No, there's.
No, we got a ways.
Yeah, and this is going kind of slow because there's a lot of.
I like when they were afraid. That's a good place
I
to
like it
stop
when
it.
they
It's
were
just leave
afraid.
it.
Right. Because next is when they go to
Yes.
their dad, so we should wait.
Yep,
Yes.
nope, no previews.
Right.
No
If
previews.
you want to know, then
You
come
have to
back
follow up
Bible
with us,
study.
right?
Well, so if you, on the Amplified Bible, it says, return to
Oh.
Canaan.
Okay.
Should I read them together?
In the blog, it doesn't say that. There's no.
Well, no, because the King
No.
James,
This one's gotta stay
the
in
King
the
James
truck car.
doesn't, write the,
What now?
This one's got to stay in the
Oh, this is
truck
the
car.
blog. This is his writing.
Right.
Yeah, stay in
Puts
the
them in
But
her-
he's
she
based
puts them
off
in
of
her bag
King
and
James.
take them out.
right. And then they.
Well, write it down.
They
Yeah.
disappeared in my room.
Yeah.
Yeah, vortex, yeah.
There's a vortex. It steals things and
Was
eats
there
things.
really an
Socks are
earthquake
one
in
of them.
California?
Yes, it was. It was loaded.
Little California Lake?
67 miles south and east of Death Valley. 4.8 after the 6.5 that was in Mexico the next morning. It's all in that same chain. And also a year ago they had one just 30 miles away from it. That was a 5.2.
So is there, so next week
Here's-
there's no Bible study, right?
Yes, there is.
Yeah, the next week there is.
Yeah.
Next week, the week after, there's
Did not.
board meeting.
Right. So next week we'll finish this and we'll start the next chapter, which I haven't been truck. All right. We gotta do those special prayer requests right there.
You're never gonna be able to read them.
So, yeah, you will.
We
No,
can
he
just
won't.
read them out as we get to them.
Yep.
He can't read my writing, I know he can't.
All right, well, you're gonna help me with this prayer.
gonna try.
All right, Heavenly Father, Lord, we just want to give you praise this evening for utterance of your word and the amazing lessons that we can get out of your chapters of your word, Lord. We just thank you for that. Excuse me. We do have some prayer requests to lift up to you. We want to lift up Lori. She lost her mother last night, Lord, so give her and her family strength and understanding for that situation, Lord. For Chelsea, for good that she gets good test results, yes. We also want to lift up Christy, because she has a brain tumor, microvascular ischemic disease of the brain. Did I say that right?
You did.
Thank you, Lord, for that. Just be with that. We know you're the ultimate healer, and you'll be with that situation, Lord. We also want to lift up Mariah and Marion. They also lost their mother, Lord, and be with that situation. And it's that season. Be with all those family members and also give them strength and understanding. For Trevor, who has some gastro things going on right now, if I remember seeing that on Facebook. John Sturgeon. Sturgill?
Oh, I
It
spelled
looks
it
like
wrong,
it,
sorry.
who also has a brain tumor and a heart condition. Lord, heal that heart, and that heart can heal that brain. Just be with that situation. Lisa Arizona, like Arizona, but Arizona. She's having, she had her parathyroid out, and she just needs to be a little touch of healing, Lord. It was a complicated surgery, so just touch that situation. Coley and Stansberry family, strength and understanding for that situation, Lord. You know what it is, and we just ask that the air conditioning repairman give him the ability to fix the Crowley's air conditioner once and for all, so that they can at least get through this summer with cool air. And just be with us all, Lord. You know that, Lord. Get us home safe. And we're enjoying the mild summer. We thank you for that. Even though the afternoon does feel really hot, but the rest of the day feels good. And just be with us the balance of this week, Lord. Let us carry you with us everywhere we go.